Hey, Tom here, Flip Anything. It's Wednesday morning. So, I'm going to talk a little bit about a question I get. I get a lot of young guys, and women too, but mostly young men, that, that might know me within my town here. They know I'm successful. It's funny, I have several companies, and actually the folks that know me on YouTube probably know more of my success on real estate than anybody. But in my own areas where I live, people know that too, because they know I'm a landlord, but also I have other businesses that are pretty successful. And so I had actually a guy come to me yesterday. His name's Tyler, and he went to school with my daughter. He's 18. My daughter's in college. He's not in college, but he's doing other things. But anyhow, he come to me about a few weeks ago, and he reminded me that I told him if he ever needed a job, and I did. I told him, if you ever need a job, come see me. Sharp kid, nice kid. And so he came, and I took him up. I put him to work in my machine shop, and he's working with some other talented people. And those of you who don't know, I make movie making equipment too, and I have some patents. I'm a little bit of an inventor, but I have a full-blown machine shop, really state-of-the-art stuff. And so he had come by my office when I was there yesterday, and he says to me, hey, he goes, man, if you got time sometime, Tom, he goes, I'd like to, I probably said Mr. McKay, I don't know, but he says, I'd like to ask you, how did you get all this? Because he's in a big building and a lot of stuff going on, and and I remember asking those questions myself, to people that were mentors to me or people that I worked for. I'd say, how did you do it? And they'd give me a little bit about how they did it. And so I told him, I says, I said, really, the way I did it is not the way everybody does it. And I think it's all about work. I said, really, it's just hard work. It's not like a Cinderella story. It's really just hard work, and that is how I got here. And so I told him, he was basically asking, well, what would you do if you were me and you were 18? And it's a good question. And sometimes I ask myself that, what would I do if I had to start over and that sort of thing? Well, what I told him is, I said, well, look, I would cut your overhead. Keep your overhead super low. In other words, don't buy a car that you don't need. Get something reliable, of course. And then as far as where you live, try to live as cheap as you can. I remember I paid $100 a month for the first place that I had, and it was just a crappy trailer on a lot. Actually, I rented a house, I think, for $125 a month, and this house was so small that I had a water bed, and it had a one-bedroom. It was a one-bedroom house, and it was off a dirt road, but it was only $125 a month. And I remember I go to put my water bed in the bedroom, and the bedroom was smaller than my water bed. So I actually had to cut my water bed down about 6 inches, make it a little bit narrower, which didn't work out real great. But anyways, I cut it down just so it would fit between the two walls. And so when you walked into my bedroom, my bed was actually touching 3 walls. And anyways, I always thought that was pretty funny. So, but anyhow, back to the story. So I told him, I said, keep your overhead down. And I told him that, I lived really cheap, $125. Then actually I moved into the dirt lot next door where there was a trailer. And I lived in that trailer by myself on this dirt lot. It was actually a dirt lot that had a bunch of construction equipment on it. And so the guy liked the idea that I was kind of a watchman too on the place. It was kind of a funny story. I'd hear the guy that I rented from, his son had some issues. His son had Tourette's. And so I would wake up and I would hear this guy just screaming and yelling and cursing, and nobody was there, just him. So it was kind of weird. It's just kind of weird having that right next door to me, or 100 feet away. We were separated by a chain link fence, fortunately. But anyhow, eventually that guy was gone, and so I approached the guy and I said, hey, I'll live in that trailer. And so I ended up taking that trailer. I lived there for a couple of years, and actually I kept my overhead low. I kept my overhead low. So I was telling Tyler that, and you keep your overhead low, and save your money. And I told him, I said, I had a boss that would work me 12 hours a day, when I worked at a cabinet shop. And so that's what I would do. I would work, if I could work, I'd work 4 hours extra a day. And but I told him the main thing is, I said, you got to be doing something on the side. I said, if you can, if you got a boss that'll work you an extra 4 hours a day, which I can't do that for him. I don't want to have anybody working 4 extra hours a day at that company. So I said, but get something going on the side. Do something on the side that makes money. I don't care if it's another job. It could be looking at real estate, or it could be doing something. But I said, when you're working so much that you don't have time to spend it, that is a beautiful thing. Because I remember being a kid and having paychecks, uncashed paychecks, sitting on top of my dresser. I say kid, I'm saying 18, 19 years old, and or 17 years old even, and 16 years old. And I remember my boss then saying, Tom, would you cash your paychecks? And he goes, you got all these checks that you haven't cashed yet. And but for me, it was just a way of saving the money, is not cashing them. And so anyways, so I'm going to get to that. So I was telling him, keep your overhead low, save as much money, work as much as you can, save that money, and then learn, like I say, if you want to do real estate, learn about real estate and find something to buy. But until then, make deals on other things. You can buy, you can buy tools. I was telling him, I stocked up on tools. I knew by working for a cabinet shop, I knew someday I'd be self-employed. So I started buying hand saws and, all kinds of drills and screw guns and things like that, nail guns, air tanks, compressors. And then when my boss went under, I had all the tools I needed to start my own company, and that's what I did. And that was like a year and a half after I went to work for a guy at 17. I was self-employed. So I was self-employed at 18. And then not long after that, at 19, I owned my first piece of property, a big commercial property, 6,000 feet. So, but back to the question I got from Tyler, keep your overhead low, save money, work a lot, but buy smart. I told him, I said, I would buy these tools, anything I bought a lot of tools used. And, so that was my hedge, is I bought tools so cheap that if I ever had to sell them, I could sell them and either make money or not lose any money. Where if I bought a brand new tool, I would probably lose money if I tried to resell it. And at one time, I cut my thumb off. You can see I got a thumb that's a little bit shorter than the other, and I actually cut it off with on a table saw, and that was some rough times. I just bought a DVD, not a DVD. They didn't have DVD then. I bought a VHS cassette player, and this is when the movie, Blockbuster and Hollywood Video was coming out, and actually before they even came out, you'd rent, movies like that, so I paid like $600 for this big giant, basically cassette deck for VHS, and when I cut my thumb off, I just bought an electric guitar the day before that. I bought an electric guitar and an amp the day before. Me and my friend went down to Guitar Center in Los Angeles, came back, played our, tried to play our guitars. I didn't know how to play, and but we, tinkering around. And then the next day, zing! I cut off my thumb, and girlfriend left me. My thumb's tied up. I had to keep my thumb over my head because they were afraid I was going to lose it. My thumb turned black, looked like it was going to fall off, and part of it did. But so I was miserable. I had to keep my thumb above my head. But the good thing is that all these things that I bought, and I got like $100 a week, I think, workman's comp, which wasn't enough to get by, but it helped. But so then I sold my VCR, and then I sold my guitar because I couldn't even hold a pick. I remember there was no way. I was not playing a guitar. Couldn't even hold a pick. I didn't have a thumb anymore. So, but because I had spent wisely and I had saved money, and not so much that I'd saved money, but everything I purchased was an investment. It was a good purchase, and my hedge was that when I started selling these tools to get by for the next several months, because I couldn't go to work for several months after this. Like I said, I'd keep my thumb above my head. I had to wash that thing 6 times a day. It was pretty terrible. But ultimately I got I got through it and I got back to work, and then, self-employed shortly after that. And but so if it depends, like I say, it's hard to tell somebody what you think they ought to do. If you're not going to college, then you better get a trade. And I told him, look, I said, you're working for me. I got some super bright guys that work for me. And I said, look, you can learn a lot from them. So look, dig and ask and learn and get as much out of your foreman as you can in this shop, because he's a really bright guy and he can teach you a lot. And if you want it, and that's the other thing, you got to want it. You got to want it. That goes for real estate or anything else. And so I said, man, get this trade under your belt, because if you're not going to go to college, then if you're going to go to college, get into whatever you get into. I can't relate. I never went to college, but I can relate to having an interest in something and digging in. And so that's what I told him. So I said, just get a trade, get good at something so you can always make money doing something. And then, then use that money and just spend it wisely. Money is a tool. I tell people that all the time. Money is a tool, and you got to respect it as such. Spend it wisely. And like I say, he said, well, what did you buy? I said, look, everything I bought was an investment. And that's kind of how I operate. Everything I buy is an investment. I can always sell it for more. And that's what everybody, I think, should apply. If they're going to get ahead, that's what you do. Or it's the safest way. So anyways, that's all. I was just going to share that. It's just kind of interesting, because I remember being there myself, being young and asking those kinds of questions. And I had people gracious enough to, tell me, how they did it or what they did, or, but basically the root of it is you got to want it, and you got to work hard. You work hard and work smart. So work hard, work smart, and keep your eyes open for opportunities, and you'll find something else that you're interested in that you can get good at. In my case, it was probably real estate investment, and I'm actually, I think I'm pretty good at a few things. But anyways, that's it for now. I just want to share that with you. So Flip Anything USA, and I'll be sharing some more stuff. I finally finished that As a Man Thinketh book, and I'll talk about that here pretty soon. So that's it, Flip Anything USA. Please subscribe, please tell your friends, and please share, comment. Let's, give me some input, what you want to hear about. And when it comes to real estate, I've done a lot of things. When it comes to business, I've done a lot of things. So I'll share any way I can with you. And that's all for now. Thanks.